Good evening everyone. Tonight's video will be a little bit different to the videos you normally see on this channel, but before we begin, suppose a cheetah and a velociraptor got into a fight. Who do you think would win? What do you mean no one starts a conversation like that? Actually, quite a few people do. Welcome to Carnivora, which is a discussion forum some of you may have heard of before. Mostly it's just people discussing animals, especially the group of animals that the name of the site would have you guess it's about. For about a year I've occasionally visited one part of the forum in particular, which, judging by the results on the poll, and thank you to those who voted on it by the way, I'm not alone in taking interest in. This is a section of the website where people make up who would win scenarios where two animals, more specifically two prehistoric animals or one prehistoric and one modern day animal, are voted on based off who would win if the two met and had a fight. I chose this as a discussion topic tonight because there were some real interesting discussions that I feel a lot of my audience would be interested in. The question that will kick off tonight's video is brought to us by the one and only Old Green Vulture, who asks us, if Smilodon and Dimetrodon got into a fight, who would win? Some people, like our Smilodon, friend over here, were on the side of Smilodon, saying that it has the powerful front limbs, the grabbing ability and the canine teeth. All very correct points. However, Team Dimetrodon seemed to favour Dimetrodon for its larger size, its much heavier, the powerful bite, and the fact it wouldn't be that easy to pounce on. Some had the same idea I had when I first read this, saying that it's almost balanced. However, I do agree with the message at the bottom, who leans more towards Dimetrodon as it also had sharp teeth and the size advantage. While Smilodon has better agility, the only other argument I can really see is, aside from the obvious saber teeth, is being able to grapple, which, thanks to the large scale of Dimetrodon, doesn't seem very likely to end well. It's also worth it to mention that Smilodon is now assumed to have been an ambush predator, and likely would not have had the agility and the grappling ability of, let's say, a big cat like a leopard. Overall, I think Dimetrodon would have been the winner between the two. Dark Tyrannosaurus Rex, that's Godzilla, asks us who would win between Eutyrannus and a white rhinoceros. Immediately, as you can see, there's a pretty big debate. So big in fact, the Triceratops themselves join in. That's right, the entire genus. Lightning provides us with a helpful size comparison between the two, but we can see that the shoulders of the rhinoceros go roughly up to Eutyrannus' neck. We can also compare the length of the rhino's horn, and this shows us that the larger horn is about the length of the Eutyrannus' lower leg and its foot, so not a small weapon at all in any way. One would be likely to assume at first that the Eutyrannus could simply just bite the rhinoceros, and, being a Tyrannosauroid, yes, this would not be a small bite. They could both charge at each other, and the rhinoceros has the horn, which, relative to Eutyrannus' size, would be a nasty injury if the rhino could get the more agile dinosaur with it. In order for me to conclude this one, I had to research a little on the hunting and attacking behaviours and what Eutyrannus would have had to deal with its own time period. I'm actually learning of a fossil site where 3 Eutyrannus had surrounded a sauropod. While this does sound good on the Eutyrannus' part, I do feel the need to bring up that, while the sauropod being present at the dig site indicates they did actually defeat it, they too must have died and fossilised at the site, indicating that the sauropod had injured them badly in the fight. 3 Eutyrannus near what would be a prey animal for a pack of dinosaurs. Some theorise that this is pack hunter behaviour. Going off of this, I will take a guess and side with these paleontologists that Eutyrannus would have been a pack hunter if prey was large enough. If it was large enough though. This scenario only gives us one Eutyrannus. So let's see what the prey animals that Eutyrannus shared its environment with and would likely have been the go-to for a lone Eutyrannus. You know what they say, safety in numbers. I'm sorry Eutyrannus, but you lose, and Rhinoceros, you win. A question that everyone has asked before. If a velociraptor and a giant prehistoric goose got into a fight, who would win? Sorry, they didn't have one with a velociraptor and a cheetah, so you're on your own answering that one. Anyway, meet Garganornis. It's just a really big relative of geese and ducks and all of that. That's about it. Velociraptor needs no introduction. Again, this was a good choice for me, as people were unsure which one would win. Yes, Velociraptor was more built for combat and was armed with all sorts of nasty, injury-inflicting claws. But Carnivora wasn't some aquatic dodo that just didn't do anything but watch as her own species went extinct. No. Do you know what this is? Obviously, we don't know if it was an aggressive animal, but even if it wasn't, the weight difference between the two would have made it quite easy for the Carnivora to just stomp on the raptor. Also important to mention that Carnivora wasn't just aggressive for being a relative of geese and being incredibly heavy. It had its own little weapon for fighting with, and by this I mean a tiny lump of bone. Now we witness a disagreement between Crazy Zoologist and the original poster of this question, as well as nothing. I think that's a glitch. Crazy Zoologist believes that Velociraptor would win as it would have been more agile and dexterous on land, which it would have been. However, this zoologist seems to confuse real velociraptors and Jurassic Park velociraptors in some aspects at times, such as when they claim it could just pounce on it like that one velociraptor tried on a T-Rex. Needless to say, that T-Rex kills a velociraptor, but anyway. The response he gets is that the velociraptor wouldn't have the time to do that before the goose got it, and that the velociraptor's foot structure is similar to that of birds who can't kick. Swans, ducks and geese can be dangerous when they need to be, and what they say here is completely correct. The best part though, and this is like a lot of internet arguments I see, is that they both actually agree that the velociraptor would win. They only disagreed on how it would win, how much of a threat the Carnivora would pose to it. The main point of disagreement really was just stating that the goose was nearly 50-50 with the velociraptor, and that the velociraptor wasn't like the monsters you see in Jurassic Park. Unfortunately, I've come to a conclusion that to the goose, L plus bozo plus ratio. I know, right? Did I just say that in November 2024? You bet I did. It's still gonna age better than their idea of velociraptors. Nice quick one this is. Carcharodontosaurus, who isn't a Carcharodontosaurus, decided to ask the carnivore community one day who would win between Didicurus and Therizinosaurus. Therizinosaurus needs no explanation. Even if you watch Jurassic World Dominion, the Therizinosaurus in that movie is actually impressively accurate. Didicurus is basically a car-sized armadillo with a tail that is a mix of an Ankylosaurus tail and a Stegosaurus tail. Basically, if you get hit by it, it might hurt a little bit. Some argue that the Therizinosaurus could just flip over the Didicurus, but I disagree. Not only would it be a challenge to flip over a car-sized armadillo that also lays very close to the ground by using nothing but some long claws, but Didicurus also had that giant spiky club on its tail. Therizinosaurus is quite a thin dinosaur, so if it was struck by this tail, it's a guaranteed broken leg and maybe even worse. I think it's quite clear that Didicurus is making it out perfectly fine, and the Therizinosaurus maybe wouldn't be killed by the Didicurus. It would still be quite badly injured. Our next scenario is brought to us by Taipan, and judging from the amount of times I've seen them, the cool red name, and the statistics below said name, they appear to be a rather prominent individual on the forum. This is of course a most enviable attribute. Anyways, the head honcho over here has asked us a question of who would win between
Everyone T-Rex is here.
Indeed, that guy versus the Ankylosaurus and
Okay.
You see, it's quite a relief to see that people still have respect for the Ankylosaurus, as in recent years, dinosaur-related media has done nothing but depict Ankylosaurus, ankylosaurs in general, actually all herbivorous dinosaurs from the looks of it, as nothing but dumb, defenseless idiots who only exist to be killed and to show off to the audience how cool our carnivorous T-Rex characters are. Tyrannosaurs nowadays bite through the thick bony armour of ankylosaurs like it's biting through the wax casing on a Babybel cheese. Yes, their bites were described as able to crush bone, but there's a difference between one thin little bone such as the rib and a massive casing that protects even a dinosaur's eyelids. And a club tail? What's that? The last time we showed these guys any respect in dinosaur media was in the original Walking with Dinosaurs, when the Ankylosaurus in that was the only thing that could kill the T-Rex. And the Walking with Dinosaurs movie, which on its own, I think insults dinosaurs, does not do anything with their ankylosaur except use it one time for a poop joke. Anyway, I only really included this one to explain something I feel many dinosaur fans need to hear, and why I've rooted for herbivores a lot more than you probably would have expected in this video. Also, why are all the villains in dinosaur movies carnivorous and the good guys in them are herbivorous? Except for Therizinosaurus, of course. What's up with that? And it doesn't really matter anyway, as these two would have shared an environment together, and the reason they could do so is because there was a balance between the predators and the prey in nature, and they would almost certainly not fight if given the choice. Anyway, the shortest way out of the scenario would be if the Ankylosaurus hit the T-Rex in the head or an area with lots of organs. Sure, the T-Rex could get really lucky and find a way to flip over the Ankylosaurus, which, yes, would render all of the defences of the Ankylosaurus useless, but 9 times out of 10, Ankylosaurus wins. This guy, who, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think we've seen before in this video, asks us who would win against Gorgosaurus and Parasaurolophus. It doesn't tell us the species of Parasaurolophus, but the description mostly talks about Parasaurolophus walkeri, so that is what we'll go with. It doesn't really matter anyway, because remember what I said just a minute ago? Now replace the bony armour and the clubbed tail of the Ankylosaurus with the fact that Parasaurolophus was an absolute giant, and there we go. And as we all know, no herbivorous animal is as underappreciated as the hadrosaurs, except for, well, the ornithomimids or the really tiny dinosaurs. Gorgosaurus, also not being the largest or strongest predator that Parasaurolophus would have shared an environment with, probably doesn't help. Don't get me wrong, Gorgosaurus is absolutely a good dinosaur to use in a fighting scenario, but you know what I say, pick on someone your own size. Being a carnivorous dinosaur is sort of like being a rapper. You look cool either way, but some are better than others. Are you ready, lads? 2024. Off we go. Money. I make lots of money. What has YouTube got me doing? I also wrote the lyrics to KSI Thick of It on the other side because I was well bored. So yeah, never again. Sorry you had to see that. Anyway, Dinosaur Michael suggests a scenario where a giraffe and a Quetzalcoatlus meet. As you can see, the results seem almost 50-50. It makes sense at first. They're both tall, thin animals with a long neck. This was a good choice, as there were arguments for and against both of the animals. Team Giraffe mentioned the fact that giraffes can swing their necks to attack sometimes, and it can easily kick and trample the Quetzalcoatlus. Giraffes are about 4 times the weight of Quetzalcoatlus, so this seems to make sense. However, these two present some arguments for Quetzalcoatlus. It is huge, yes, and another major point to bring up, it flies. Whether it could or could not attack from the air the same way, say, a bird could swoop down to a river and grab a fish while flying, was discussed in the comments this post. However, there wasn't a clear enough conclusion for me, and Wikipedia, which I went to after looking at that, claims that this hypothesis is widely regarded as untrue. However, they do say that Quetzalcoatlus had a large beak, which it does. Could this be useful? Let's find out. Quetzalcoatlus could have used the beak to bite or peck at the giraffe, but I couldn't find any sources that said that Quetzalcoatlus would have pecked to attack other animals, and the Natural History Museum published this, just a few weeks away from 3 years ago, that states that Quetzalcoatlus would have most likely behaved like a giant heron. That being said, I think Quetzalcoatlus would be perfect for going after fish or small dinosaurs, but not exactly suited for combat against anything its own size, except for the beak, which, again, would have been used more for fish than anything else. As cool as Quetzalcoatlus is, I think Giraffe could beat the giant pterosaur, despite possibly suffering some moderately serious injuries if the Quetzalcoatlus could use its beak. Our final topic for tonight's video is going to be No! I'm not taking part in any of that. Though I might still do it anyway. Tyrannosaurus could easily outrun the Spinosaurus on land, and while Spinosaurus would be a lot stronger in the water, the most it could still do would be scratches with its claws and biting. However, Tyrannosaurus has a much stronger bite by far, and the Spinosaurus isn't exactly something that could take the aforementioned bone-crushing bite very well. Thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.